Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of our podcast, Is Breakfast Included? How are you? Good. Today on the show, I sit down with my old friend, Davies Baird. I've known Davies for over 30 years. He's partially the reason I'm in this industry, and I always give him credit. We've been through a lot together. He's an independent promoter rep, and he tells some stories about that and kind of what he does. This was mainly a reason for me to sit down and kind of catch up with him while I was back in town. He's one of my favorite people, and I believe we'll be friends to the end. Anyway, I found out a lot about him. You'll find out a lot about him, and you'll also find out what I bought him for breakfast one morning in Las Vegas. All right, guys, let's check it out. That'll come up.
I'm sure. I'm sure it will.
You're an acquired taste, not a dick.
Absolutely. Not everybody has acquired it, that's for sure. A lot of people aren't even trying.
All right, man. Tell everyone who you are.
I'm Bernie's buddy Davies. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I've known Bernie 30 years, and that's why I'm qualified to be doing this.
30 years.
Can you believe it's 30 years?
Yeah.
92.
Yeah.
I think that's 30 years by my math.
I met you walking out of the basement.
Dave's.
It's the basement.
Oh, you asked me if you could work for me walking out of Smoking Dave's.
You were struggling to get your cab in your car, and I said, "You need some help?" And you're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You need help at your other shows?" And you're like, "What are you doing Friday?"
Yeah, I thought we were walking down the driveway of Smoking Dave's Rock Room, and you said, "Can I be your guitar tech?" And I was like, "Sure." You don't remember that one?
I remember that, but it was after the because I showed up at Smoking Dave's that Friday, and you didn't remember who I was.
Well, that's probably.
And then you said, and then I said, "Yeah, I was going to be your tech tonight." And you're like, "Oh, okay, come on."
Well, I like to know that I'd help kickstart your career.
And that's where it started, man. That's where you and I started.
Yeah, that's where we started, where you started your tech career, right?
Yeah. Working
See
for
there,
you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I gave Bernie his kickstart there.
You gave me my thick skin.
He's more famous than I ever was.
Man, where are you from originally?
I was born in Garland, believe it or not. I try not to tell people, but there won't be anybody listening to this anyway, so we're all right. Just kidding. I was born in Garland, and then they moved me over to the Park Cities, Highland Park High School. I went through 1st through 12th grade, Highland Park. I was the only one of the 5 kids. I was the last of 5. And they moved us to the Highland Park School District right before I started 1st grade. And I went 1st through 12th grade, and I don't think it helped a bit.
You the only musician, music person in the family?
Absolutely. My dad was a doctor, and he was not a big fan of the guitar. And my mom was a dancer and singer before she got married. And that went away when she got married. She committed to be a housewife and a mom. She did a hell of a job. And she's still alive at 95.
I met your mom recently.
She's doing well. She's still doing well. We're pretty blessed to have her living. 95 is a pretty good run, and she doesn't look like she's winding down at all.
Yeah. A lot of people credit Kiss as the gateway band to playing guitar, to being what I refer to as dirtbags. Was Kiss your band?
No. Kiss was never my band. I give them all the credit in the world for doing what they do, but I never took them seriously. When I saw the makeup, the Kiss Alive, I liked that album, but looking at the makeup, I never could figure they were taking it very seriously looking like that. That was always my perception of Kiss. And, nothing against Kiss, and they're kicking ass. And I like a few of their songs. Like I said, Kiss Alive is a good album. Aerosmith was more my thing. I was always a Joe Perry and Jimmy Page. Those 2 guys were always who I wanted to be. It was the look on their face and the fact that they looked like they were working hard to do what they did without a bunch of makeup like Kiss. I just never could get into Kiss. It's just my thing, though.
The low slung guitars?
Yeah, Les Paul, slung as far down as you could barely reach it, and a snarly look on their face and playing, doing everything they could. not great players, but great performers. So I figured, and I said, hey, I can aspire to be a not great player and try to be a decent performer. And that's what I aim for, because I didn't want to. I think it was a good plan, because as you get older, you could still play the stuff you used to play. But, if you try to play like some of those real technical guys, eventually it catches up with you. That's my philosophy. Yeah. So I think I was pretty smart when I was 12 years old and thinking about wanting to play guitar. I said, don't get too good. You won't be able to keep up.
I remember my first band, you came to see us play. This was after you and I met, and I had been working for you for a while, or hanging out at your shows working for you, and you came to see my band play. And I remember after the first song, you walked up to the stage and you said, quit thinking about what you're playing and just move your legs, move around. Quit thinking about what you're playing.
Did it help?
I guess so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always figure as long as you got a body part moving while you're playing, you're keeping your cadence, And then other than that, just don't be overthinking it. You get on stage and overthink it, and you'll screw it up.
Did you ever get to see Led Zeppelin? I know you've seen Aerosmith.
I saw Led Zeppelin 1977 at Dallas Convention Center. My buddy went and waited for the tickets. We got obstructed view, but we just kind of walked around and found a good place. And I saw Led Zeppelin. I saw the show that really changed me was the Rolling Stones in 1978 at Will Rogers Auditorium. And that put me in a whole different mind, so that, I saw what they were doing and I was like, that's what I want to do in some capacity. So, I got into concert production. After I gave it hell playing guitar, I figured, hey, I got to stay in the business. So that's how I got into the promoter rep thing.
And what you do now.
Yep.
So you were doing it when I met you. You were doing runner work.
Yeah, I was a runner. I started out as one summer. I was going to be a runner for a summer, and well, here I am still in the business. But yeah, that's how I got started, running errands for the bands at Starplex here in Dallas. I worked the very first show there at the amphitheater, and I still
Rod Stewart.
I still go there as Rod Stewart. Next night was Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses opened. It was on their first real tour. It was Slash's birthday. Guns N' Roses pulled a birthday cake out on stage, and it got all over the stage. And then the production manager, while I was sitting there, came in and yelled at those guys for getting cake on the stage. And he said, you know what, Joe Perry could fall down and break his leg again, because Joe Perry had broken his leg on stage about a year before. But he yelled at them, and they looked like a bunch of little kick pups, man. It was pretty funny. Watching Slash come in a little, man, we're really sorry. It was really funny. I mean, I talked to Axl that day for about 30 minutes. He was just standing outside. Nobody was talking to him. Nobody looking at him. And it was, he was a real pleasant guy when I talked to him that day. I mean, I was bugging him probably, but he was nice enough to, just shoot the shit with me. But yeah, that was a second show at Starplex. It went to Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses, and you could tell Guns N' Roses were walking on eggshells, because Aerosmith, that's back when they were all trying to be sober, and it was hard having Guns N' Roses around for them, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Because those guys were partying. They were enjoying life.
Yeah. I remember I saw Guns N' Roses the first time open for Alice Cooper. And me and my buddies went, and we went to see Alice Cooper. This is the time when you just went to every show that came to town. But Guns N' Roses was his opening act, and my buddy threw a tennis ball on stage during their set for some reason. But as we're driving back to Corsicana, they're on Dowdy Ferry. There used to be some rundown, there's some nice service stations there. And we pulled in, and their bus was there, but they were all outside, and Slash was bouncing a tennis ball. We're like, he got our tennis ball. Yeah. It could have been any tennis ball.
That's probably it.
In our head, it was our tennis ball.
Fuck yeah, it was y'all's. Yeah, well, how many other tennis balls were flying around that day?
I don't know. I don't know why my buddy decided to bring a tennis ball to throw on stage.
Because Slash needed something to do later.
So you and I met 93. 92,
was it 92?
92,
92 or 3.
Yeah.
Whenever Johnny Bone, yeah.
Yeah, and I started hanging out with you, which to me, man, I'll tell you this. I want to get it on record, so when I'm long gone, people will hear that you took. I was a naive kid from this crap town,
Corsicana,
and you took me under your wing, and I felt like you liked me.
I did.
You know, like for some reason I felt like, oh man, this guy, everybody knows this guy, and everybody wants, like you always say, you're an asshole.
Yeah, I'm a prick.
That everybody wants to be Davies' friend, and like you would call me and go, hey, we're got a show coming up, meet me here, or come drive me was the big thing.
Yeah, see, I needed a designated driver in those days, and I knew you didn't drink. That helped. But no, I mean, you were always there, and that helped. I mean, helping me out. Shit, I still have the same rig right here, two 412s and the 2 Marshalls, and man, those heads get heavy as I get older.
I think I don't know, you might still have it, the Roland or the
combo, the JCM 800 combo.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, I got rid of that a long time ago. I traded that off for somebody painting my old piece of shit car one time or something. But yeah, no, I mean, you showed interest, and hey, I needed the help for sure, and I was happy to have you.
Yeah, but I think we spent a lot of time together.
We did.
Back in the storage room.
Hell yeah, right there on Carrollton,
right there on
the
Sandy Lake.
A lot of shit happened in that room.
Yeah,
had a lot of crazy things happen. I mean, good things career wise, but didn't quite go where we were trying. We worked our asses off in that band.
Yeah.
It was a better band before we got that previously named individual as a singer, but we had to do something. The other singer was kind of losing interest. That was the band Vinnie Paul got into, and took us into the studio and produced 5 of our tunes. I still have all the recordings.
Yeah.
And Bo Hill flew out from L.A., came to that room and watched us and asked us where we wanted to go to record the album. So we thought we had the Atlantic deal tied up. And he called Doug Morris, the president of Atlantic, from my phone in that little shit warehouse I lived in. A lot of weird things like that happened. That didn't pan out for whatever reason, but it was pretty exciting. The first version of that band, Spiders, was, we worked real hard and we tried real hard. And then when Johnny Bone got in the band, things kind of turned into it became the Aggression Circle was the name of it, but that's when you came along around that time, and it just kind of went to shit because some people can't handle their if you're going to party, you need to know what you can do and what you can't do, and there was a certain individual that didn't know what he could handle, and so
there's a difference between a party and a problem.
Yeah, when it becomes a lifestyle instead of a party, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And I can't knock anybody for that. Help, I've had my issues in the past, but I always tried to maintain, to where I could do what I'd had to do, no matter what it was. But yeah, some people just don't know their limit. And, I still know people like that, and I just try to avoid them now. It's unpleasant being around people that are, not themselves, because usually when they become someone else, it's someone you don't like.
Yeah, I think that's always been my experience, and
drunk people annoy the shit out of me is what I'm trying to say right now.
I don't like the babysitting.
No. Well, hell, you used to babysit me by driving me back.
It was those pot pies at the end of the night that I wanted.
I tried not to be too annoying, but, sometimes.
No.
But we used to have some good gigs.
We had a lot of fun back then, man.
Yeah.
And you kind of got me into this industry, too, as a runner.
Well, we'll give some credit to Lynn Pryor because she worked for me. I told her to different people, I'd say, man, call him to be a runner when she was looking for people, and I said, call Bernie, and I think she waited a show or two, but she called you, and you started working. But I mean, she did. I got to give Lynn credit on that. I haven't seen her in years, but she definitely was.
I thought about Lynn the other day, and I noticed realized I hadn't heard from her in years.
Yeah, I think she moved back to Arizona or something. But yeah, I have to give her credit for that. She definitely was in. She helped me out back then, and she's the one that called you that day, actually, to come to that show. But only because I told her to, of course. So I'll take a little credit. That got you kick-started into what you're doing.
Yeah, man. It was Pat Green.
Yep.
Yeah, Sean Murray.
Sean Murray, that son of a bitch. Stole you from us. I was like, yeah, Bernie's good. He said, well, how good is he? I said, man, he's good. He can tune guitars and stuff, too. You were off on a run. He said, I really like that Bernie guy. I was like, oh, cool. I was thinking, hey, he likes Bernie. I didn't know he was going to take you away. I would have told him you sucked. I would have been very selfish to try to keep you, but it worked out for you. Sean Murray.
I get a lot of questions asked what like promoter reps do, and you're my first one that I'm talking to. What exactly is a promoter rep? What is your gig on a gig?
My job as a promoter rep is to be the liaison between the city and the tour. Tour manager, production manager, whatever they need, they come to me instead of trying to, source it locally, which would be a monumental task in every city. So the promoter rep is a production manager, local production manager, promoter rep's job is to make sure everything that the artist, tour needs, make sure they have it. We get on the phone a couple of weeks, 2 or 3, 4 weeks before their event, their show, and they send me the writer, and I go through all that, and I make sure everything, all the staff is there, catering, stagehand, security, any special needs, massage therapist. At one time I had is it Courtney Love that was married to what's his name, Nirvana guy?
Yeah.
One time I did a show just as an example of over a busy day. The tour manager, production manager, I don't know which one it was, came up to me when I was doing Courtney Love at the Bronco Bowl. They said Courtney needs a what's it called? The Chinese people with the needles? Acupuncturist. She needs a vocal coach, and she needs a massage therapist. It was about 3:00 in the afternoon, and she needs it before the show. I was like, well, thanks for the ramp. And I found it. But I mean, that's the kind of that's what happens. They ask you for just about anything on show day, and you got if you're good at what you do, you can get it for them.
Is there anything you've ever seen on a rider that you're just like, nah, it's ridiculous?
I don't. Well, I mean, only in the hospitality part. I tell them we ain't buying cigarettes, we don't buy underwear. That's always been a thing. Other than that, anything goes. I mean, if they need it, I'll get it for them if I can. I've never. I don't think I've ever really failed at that. There's been some close calls, but I've always been pretty good about resourcing. And now I've been doing it so long, I pretty much can find anything because I know somebody who knows somebody. I mean, I had to get pygmy goats a year or two ago, just a bunch of pygmy goats because they wanted some. I think it was a Dixie chick. Somebody wanted them, and I got them a bunch of pygmy goats one day.
To hang out with, or
they just wanted to look at pygmy goats because they're really cute. You ever seen one?
Yeah,
they're about that big. They're cuter than hell. They wanted to look at them or something, so we got them for them. We've gotten a lot of interesting things for people.
Who's the most interesting person you've ever had to work with?
I avoid the artists at any cost, so I really try not to. I did get to when I was a runner. I was doing AC/DC. I think it was a Fly on the Wall tour or one of the tours, Brian Johnson singing. And they asked me, hey, I was a runner, and they said, hey, I need you to take Brian to the Four Seasons. I was like, well, my car is about the biggest hunk of shit car you ever saw. I paid $125 for this old Toyota Corolla I bought one time, and I drove that car for hundreds of thousands of miles. It was a great car, but it was ugly. They said, Brian won't care. So I backed that piece of junk into the Reunion Arena. It was a long time ago. It was at Reunion Arena in Dallas. Brian jumped in, and I said, Brian, I'm sorry about the old car here. He goes, oh, it's a great car. And I said, I only paid $125 for it. And he goes, can you get another one? And I drove him, and we go up this big ramp at Reunion Arena. We're going up the ramp, and there was a bunch of fans that used to always hang out at the top of the ramp whenever there'd be a band. And I pulled by, and old Brian's sitting there, had his hat on. You could tell it's Brian Johnson. They all looked at the car. Then they looked at it, shook their heads. Oh, that can't be him. Because the car was such a hunk of shit. We just went right on by, and I drove him out to Four Seasons. We talked the whole way. And later that night, about 9 hours later, after the show, I walk into the office, and he was in there, and he goes, Davies, how are you, Davies? And he remembered my name after, which I thought was pretty cool. He was probably he's probably the coolest guy I ever met. But I always avoid the artists because I'm kind of, as a promoter rep, production manager, local production manager, it's my job to keep people away from the artists. Yeah. So getting, involved with the artists, it's kind of counter to what my whole philosophy is, keep people the fuck away from the bands. Right. Now, I've been doing a lot of comedy lately, and that's a different story. Those people are approachable. Those people seek you out. Rob Schneider, I've done his show recently, and hell, he was screaming my name, telling me to get in there, drink wine with him in the dressing room after the show. and Joe Rogan. I took you and your son
Yeah,
met Joe
yeah.
Rogan. The comics are a different deal, but the bands, I keep people away from them. That's my job. That's my job to keep them away from the comics too. But the comics kind of seek you out. It's a different deal altogether.
I
Got
think.
Joe Rogan this weekend, Friday. He's coming to town.
Oh, really? Well, looks like I'm leaving a couple of days early then.
Oh, it looks like you're gonna lose out.
Wait a minute, I got to back up this story about the Toyota Corolla for $125. This isn't the one you sold me for $300, is
No,
it?
no. No, that was the one I bought from Billy Morgan, and the one you bought, I think I paid him $500. I sold it to you for $300. What'd you do? Wrecked it and how much you get?
Someone backed into me, and it was a cop who had been drinking all night.
Typical Bernie story here.
Backed into me, destroyed the hood. He hit me. He had the jacked up truck, and the hood peeled back. And then he was a cop, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a cop. I can take care of this," and gave me his license and said, "Call me tomorrow." His card and his license. He said, "Call me tomorrow. We're going to take care of this." And so he said, "Go get a quote." So I went and got a bunch of quotes, and it was like $1,100. $1,100 for this quote.
You paid $300 for the car.
So I called him. I said, "This is the cheapest quote, $1,100, and that's with everything." And he goes, "All right." And then his wife got online. She's like, "You're trying to fucking, rip him off." And I'm like, "Hey, he gave me his license. He's a cop. Whatever. I don't know what to do with this." And then he took the phone back. This was before cell phones. I was calling him from my telemarketing job from my desk.
His wife got pissed.
So anyways, he said, "Okay." We met up. He gave me a check for $1,100. I gave him his license back. And then a guy at work goes, "We can go to the wrecking yard and buy a hood, and I can put it on for you." So I went and paid $150 for the hood.
Yeah, it pissed me off when you told me that. If I remember correctly, I was like, damn.
Yeah, man.
But that's the only car I ever put a transmission in physically. And man, was that a bitch. But
Yeah.
that was a good car you bought from me. But no, that wasn't the same car.
No. I do remember the times and how broke I was. I bought the car from you, but I had to pay you in payments for
See, there's Easy Dave's card.
$300.
Car lot.
I had to pay you $300 over like 3 months.
Damn, I'm a hell of a guy, aren't I? I should have charged him more if I'd known. That $125 car, though, I was a runner. I had a lot of different people in that car. I took Scott Weiland to the doctor in that car one time, too. They were opening for the Butthole Surfers at Fair Park Coliseum. So the day before they were in Houston, and he was driving a golf cart, fucking around, and he dumped the golf cart over on its side and hit his head. So their tour manager the next day, it said, "Man, do y'all," he asked the Butthole Surfers, "Do y'all have a runner that could take Scott to the doctor?" And they loaned me to them. And I called my doctor up. We had a local rock doc, but he couldn't come on site. So I had to drive Scott over there. And I took him to the doctor, and, we got him right in. I called ahead, and he got a prescription. So I took him up to right around the corner to a grocery store, Tom Thumb, where you go in and you go to the pharmacy. Then you have to go check out at the main part. And he got while he was waiting on his prescription, I'm over looking at magazines, and I see a Spin magazine with Scott Weiland on the cover. And on the cover, he had red hair, like when they first came out. Remember when STP first came out? But he had blue hair. Maybe it was blue hair on the cover. And then he had red hair when I was with him, because he, was fucking around changing his hair color. And I said, "Hey, Scott, have you seen this?" And he looked over and he goes, "My first magazine cover, hell yeah." And he picked it up. He was all excited. Then he got his prescription, and we went to check out. We get in line, because we had to carry it over to the grocery checkout. Yeah. And we're standing in line, and then when he gets up, we get up there, he sets the magazine down and the prescription. African-American lady running the checkout, and she's, probably 50, 55, something, she just kind of real nice. She looked at him, smiled, then she looked down at the magazine. Then she looked back up, and then she looked back down at it, and then she goes, "That's you! That's you!" Starts going, "That's you!" And she was jumping up and down because he was on the cover of the magazine. He got all excited, and he was jumping up and down. They were both going, "That's you!" And he was going, "That's me!" And they were both, it was surreal. It was really a strange thing. But they were both just totally into this, and I was just going, "Oh, damn, this is weird shit."
Doing what you do, have you met any of your heroes?
I've met a few of them, but you know what they say, you don't want to meet your heroes because they always disappoint.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I've met a few people that, were just kind of pricks. I won't name them. But I'll tell you who another guy I met that was really a cool guy, and that was Dave Mustaine. He played at the Southside Ballroom. This is 3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it was the runner that week.
Yeah.
They rehearsed that week.
Yeah, and he was my buddy. By the end of the thing, he was hanging out in my office. Davies. He's a good guy. Dave Mustaine's a real nice guy. And my friend Snake told me his bucket list was to meet Dave Mustaine one day. And I called Snake, hey, you ought to come up here, man. Megadeth's playing. And he was like, oh, yeah, great. And he came up. And after the show, he came into my office. My buddy Snake did, and he sat down. He said, man, that was a great show. And I said, well, hang tight. You'll meet Dave in a minute. He goes, no way. And then Dave comes in after the show. Davies, man, how's it going? And just shooting his shit. And I said, Dave, this is my friend Snake. He sat there and talked to Snake for probably a half hour. Just made his life. Snake. Dave's a good guy, I had previous encounters with him in the past, like 98, 99, around then when he was touring. And I don't know what was he had a little different attitude back then. He was he was a little hard to know, and he would remember my name, but it was never pleasant when he would use my name. He
was still a little bitter back then.
Yeah,
too.
he was a little understandably so. But no, he's a great guy. Every time I've seen him in the last 10 years, he's always been fairly pleasant.
Yeah.
He doesn't always go out of his way to come say hi. But that week, I forgot they rehearsed that week. But yeah, he was in my office a lot that week. He was my buddy.
Yeah,
he was a good guy.
He was a nice guy. He was just very, very particular.
He
individual
definitely knows what he wants.
Exactly.
And you gotta, and I can appreciate that because I'm sure he's had plenty of what he doesn't want. You don't know what you want until you've had what you don't want, I guess. But Dave Mustaine, I've met a bunch of people. I just, you forget until you start thinking of, somebody brings the name up and then you go, oh yeah, I've got a story about that. I mean, I met Joe Perry when he quit Aerosmith and he went out on his own. He played right up here, right up the hill from where I live. There used to be the Agora. Mm-hmm. Was it the Agora? Palladium and then the Agora.
Yeah.
And he was up there doing his solo tour that let the music do the talking tour. And I went in there, just walked in there because my buddy was working as a stagehand. He said, man, Joe Perry's up here just doing nothing. I was like, cool. And I lived over in the Park Cities. And I was probably 19, 18. I went walking in the front. Nobody stopped me. Nobody looking. There's Joe playing pool by himself. And he was like rail thin, and I have a feeling he was deep in the addiction days back then.
No.
And he was thin and white and just looked he looked rough. But he was playing pool by himself, and I sat there and bothered him for about 20 or 30 minutes, till he was done answering questions for me, and then he walked off. But he was nice. He was pleasant, I remember I told him, good luck, Joe, and he looked at me like, I think that's over. It was really funny the way he looked at me like, kid, I'm done. It's over. And that was before, their whole reemergence. But it was.
They came back with a vengeance, didn't they?
He was a hell of a guy. He was pleasant to me. I could tell he would rather I had not walked up and started bugging him. But he was nice. He answered questions. I asked him dumb questions like, who did most of the leads, you or Brad Whitford? And I've been to every Aerosmith show. I kind of knew it was a 50-50 thing, really. But I just wanted, I just needed something to ask him. What else you can ask Joe Perry? I didn't really think about the questions. I just walked up and started bugging him.
So that experience, like you going up to Joe Perry, asking him a lot of questions, you were a fan as well.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like in this industry that we're in, I run across a lot of people who pretend that we don't do it because we're fans. I'm still a fan. If there's an artist I like, I still go up and go, hey, can I get a guitar pick? Just because, that's my guy.
I've never been big on trying to collect things. My whole thing was I knew if I didn't make it playing guitar, I was going to have to do something in that industry because this is the only thing I know anything about, really. I would not be good at much else. I mean, I've been a framer. I've done trim carpenter, that kind of shit. And I don't enjoy it. Hell, I damn near cut my finger out being a trim carpenter. So I was like, I think I won't do that anymore. It's I prefer to be in the industry I know something about. Although the industry's changing and there's a lot of different aspects. I mean, music has gotten so categorized. There's a lot of shit that comes through, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about half the time. But I mean, I can fake my way through anything. I know who to call if I have a question. Like I said, I have enough resources now that if there's something comes in and there's somebody asking me about something, I mean, they won't totally stump me, but I'll be like, I'm not really brushed up on a lot of the EDM stuff. So I know that I have a local EDM guy I call, and he answers that question for me, and I can take care
He knows all the lingo.
Yeah, there's a lot of lingo and a lot of extra. That shit is. There's so many different things that those shows. All the new production stuff people bring in. You can't really know everything about all of it, but I can definitely get it for them. I don't care if I know what it is or not. I can get it for them. It's you just got to kind of fake your way through if you don't know. And most of the time, they don't know you're faking it. That's always been my thing. Anybody that's starting out as a promoter rep, trying to do it, I said, here's what you do. They ask you something, you don't know the answer. You say, hey, give me about 5 minutes, I'll be back. And then go around the corner and you call me or you call somebody else and we'll give you the answer. Never let them see you sweat, just like the commercial.
I've been on some pretty big tours and I watch big production managers and tour managers still faking it till they make it.
You have to.
And they do it with such confidence that you're like, I'll follow this guy anywhere he tells me to go.
Fuck, you can bullshit your way through a lot. I mean, I try not to have to do any, like I said, I mean, I can tell anybody, I can come up with an answer, but sometimes I got to say, hey, give me a second on that, and I'll be right back with you. Or, hey, I got to take this call. Anything to get away. You make a call, find out what the hell they're talking about, come back knowledgeable in the subject. Yeah. That's the way to do it. I mean, I don't do that a lot, but that is one approach. I don't want to mislead anyone to think I'm faking my way all the way through it, although I was doing it for a while when I first started. You really just have to, it's just a matter of, you want to lead, you want to follow. I've never been big on following, so I figured, I better be the lead in my area. It's better for me.
Well, man, thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you for telling everybody what you do. I've always looked up to you as a mentor. And I think we don't say things enough, but while I'm here, I'd like to say, dude, coming from where I came from, crossing paths, I always say you cross paths with who you're supposed to cross paths with. We've been friends for 30 years, and I don't think I've ever told you, dude, like, you've saved my life more times than you know. When I needed somebody just to talk to, or even just to hang out with, like, you were so cool in my eyes when I met you, and the fact that you kind of accepted me, and yet I remember you saying something like, hey, you want a beer? I don't drink, more for me, so there was never any of that. So to meet people like you, I just wanted to tell you, like, I've always looked up to you. In these 30 years, I don't think we've ever lost contact. I don't think I've ever had a bad word to say about you. I hope you never had a bad. I don't
think we've ever had a crossword or anything. Yeah,
but I think you and I are both you and I are both in the same industry where our phones ring a lot about things like you don't hear from somebody for years, and then your phone rings and they want something.
Yeah,
and you've always busted my balls about that. But coming from where I came from, I had never met anybody that could get me into shows free. Yeah. But I tell you this, man, to this day, everyone I meet, your name comes up when they ask me, like, how did you get started to doing this? Like, you're one of the constants in my life that I know will always be there.
Well, that's what we talked about a long time ago about the guitar. It's going to be the constant.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Bernie. You've always been a good guy, always been my friend, and I love you as well as I could love anyone.
Thank you, man. Now that we've got all that out of the way, it's called Is Breakfast Included? So if it was included, what would you have?
I don't know. It seemed like when I went to Vegas and you bought me breakfast, I had eggs over medium, bacon, and pancakes and coffee. I'm pretty sure that's what I'd have again. Maybe hash browns too. I appreciate that, by the way. If I didn't thank you for buying me breakfast,
after
hooking me up for the concert the night before.
That's anytime, man. Hey. I know you've hooked me up enough times that if I could do it one time,
anything I can ever do for you, Bernie, you know that.
All right, brother. Well, thank you for your time, dude. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
All right.
See ya.
Right on, Davies Baird. Great guy, huh? I really appreciate him taking time while I was home to do this. A lot of times I reach out to people about interviewing them because I find them interesting, and I think you will. This is one of those times that I did, but also I wanted it to go on record how I felt about Davey. He's one of my oldest friends, and I meant it when I say that he's done a lot for me in my life. Like I said, he's a great guy. You don't need to find him on social media. He's kind of a private person. All right, guys, I am done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.